I like to make sculptures that are for places. Most people locally know me for the space on Shelburne Road. On the right is an installation I did at Wave Hill in New York, which is for that space, and of that space I made molds of the architectural details in that room and worked them into the sculptures so the sculptures look like they're part of the room. And then there's a big oak tree outside the window, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is a project in Seminole, Florida, a nature park that I made temporary sculptures out of plaster that erode eventually and alert people to look at their environment. But most of them were made for trees, so you can see that I had to fit them like tailoring. This is a project I did in South Korea called Mountain Head. And though the project was meant for a sculpture park in the Korean mountains, that's a place, but what I brought with me is Mount Mansfield. I grew up in Stowe looking at Mount Mansfield every day. I skied or climbed the nose and the chin, and I think that's why I'm a sculptor, actually. These mountains are like sculptures. And these are just a few shots. I could do a whole talk on this crazy adventure working in South Korea. I worked in a freezing tent. But the sculpture is a big head made of smaller heads, and then within those heads, they're miniature landscapes made out of flowers and cookies because the president of the cookie company was the patron for the whole project. Okay, so, well, you can see I love architectural sculpture, and I love these kinds of details. I love claw feet in chairs, illuminated manuscripts, all that sort of thing, because they signify life. And so if you walk through this stone facade, you know, there's spirit there. Everything's animated. These details are talking to us, in whether it's in buildings or gardens. I'm big on sphinxes. The first PechaKucha talk I gave was all about sphinxes. Those two at the bottom are from Vienna. So anyway, these are some of my inspirations. And I've realized that the longest sculpture project I've done, which is still in progress, is my own space. This is my place in Winooski that I bought almost 25 years ago. It's gradually changed with plantings. That's my studio on the right that I ended up living in for 12 years. And so it was claustrophobic, built a deck, didn't like the footings, made claw feet to go over them. So my work changed because I started making sculptures for my place, my own place. This is outside my barn, just over the years, the different, what I call my private ruins, sort of changing with time. Oh, I'm not looking at my notes. Quick, before it changes, okay. Okay, right, so then, that's over like 24 years. Then last January, starting up there to October down there, my big dream of building a studio addition came true. And so you can see it start to finish with the celebration party. The old garage is for two-dimensional work, the new one is for sculpture. And because the excavator was crazy enough to work with me, I could finally make this sculpture garden. And I thank Cynthia Knopf, landscape architect, for helping me with the design, and Stuart Hamilton for the design of the studio. Mike Burnett's the excavator. We put in these columns, and I used my rejects from the Pomerleau Park to create the entrance into the garden. These are some of the details from what I called my ruins outside my barn that are now integrated into the garden. Almost all of these are concrete, one found stone, some ceramic, and some of these bases were made from experiments casting into fabric. These are some shots from the winter. There's a bronze sculpture on the upper left, sort of blanketed with snow, and on the lower right, I often leave sculptures made out of plaster outside to also erode over time, because I'm a sculptor and I need space and I don't have enough, even though I have a barn. And then finally, we've come to this spring, so I've been planting like crazy. I like to mix up vegetables with flowers. And in the upper right, you see part of the new plan is to try to eradicate the view of my neighbor's house and fence. So I'm planting lots of trees and shrubs and so on. And in the lower right, you see the fence. Surreptitiously, I keep putting branches all over it to grow vines all over it. And Here on the left, you see a 6-foot-high bronze in the distance, and the other bronze here. And then on the upper right, you see that bronze looking over at the plaster original. Okay, this is the cheap laugh. This is my cat, Henry, hanging from the tree. And then on the right, this is a salvaged piece I've been hoarding for years, and now it's strategically in this corner waiting for me to make a sculpture to put on top of it to hide things like the meter boxes and so on from my neighbors. Because when you walk into this sculpture garden eventually, I want it to be totally this other world. Now the last few images are from artwork inside the studio, which is also inspired by gardens and plants. This is called Leaf Gang, and these are translucent resin sculptures that are cast. And these are also some small sculptures. This is called Tribe of Venetian Eccentrics. And there are double-headed flowers in their faces and heads. And, you know, all my work is about metamorphosis and life and change, and these are all sort of growing and changing into different forms. These are a couple of works on paper where I actually take flowers and press them into the paper, and then, excuse me, the stains and residues that are left on the paper, I work from them, collaging some of my to-do lists and painting and so on, so that I'm giving an ordinary life to the imaginary lives of these flowers. And then this is just a shot I took a few days ago of some new work in progress. I'm working on wood. That's a detail at the bottom of one of the pieces. And I'm hoping that I will have a few or several of these finished in time for my big party a week from this Sunday that you're all invited to. Everybody's invited, and I have loads of cards with me. Just come up to me during the intermission if you'd like a card with more information. And so this is the first summer and spring of my sculpture garden, and you're all invited, and it'll be fun. That's it.